Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to share a story with you. It's a timeless classic, one you might have heard before, but its message is so powerful, it's always worth revisiting. It's the story of the ant and the dove, and it's all about how one small act of kindness can create ripples you never expect. So grab a comfy seat, maybe a cup of tea, and let's dive into a tale that proves no good deed, no matter how small, is ever truly wasted. Our story begins on a beautiful, sunny day, the kind where the world just feels alive. Picture a tiny ant going about his busy day. He's hardworking, determined, and maybe a little thirsty. He scurries over to a clear, babbling brook to get a drink. The water looks so refreshing, glistening under the sun. He leans over the edge of a blade of grass, trying to reach the cool water below. But in his eagerness, he stretches just a little too far, loses his footing, and splash. He tumbles right into the swift-moving current. Now for a creature as small as an ant, a brook might as well be a raging ocean. The current is strong, pulling him under, tossing him around. He kicks his tiny legs with all his might, struggling desperately to stay afloat. He tries to swim towards the bank, but the water is just too powerful. He's being swept further and further downstream, and his strength is quickly fading. Fear and exhaustion are setting in. It feels like this is the end. He can see the green shore, so close yet so impossibly far away. Hope is starting to dwindle. But just as he's about to give up, something amazing happens. High up in a tree branch overlooking the brook, a beautiful white dove has been watching the whole thing unfold. She sees the little ant's desperate struggle, his tiny form being tossed about by the water. Her heart fills with pity. She knows she has to do something. But how? She can't dive into the water herself. Thinking quickly, she plucks a single blade of straw from a nearby stalk with her beak. With careful aim, she flies over the churning water and drops the blade of straw right next to the struggling ant. It lands gently on the surface, a tiny golden lifeboat in a world of watery chaos. For the ant, it's a miracle. It's like a shipwrecked sailor seeing a piece of driftwood. With the last of his strength, he grabs onto the straw, clinging to it for dear life. The straw is buoyant and steady, a perfect little raft. No longer fighting the current, the ant holds on tight as the straw is carried along by the water. It bobs and weaves, but it keeps him safely above the surface. Slowly but surely, the current pushes the straw towards the bank. Finally, it bumps gently against the muddy shore. The exhausted but grateful ant lets go of his makeshift raft and crawls onto solid ground. He takes a moment to catch his breath, his tiny heart pounding with relief. He is safe. He looks up, trying to find the dove who saved him, wanting to thank her, but she has already flown back to her perch, content with her simple act of kindness. The ant, however, would never forget. Life went on. The sun rose and set, and the seasons began to change. Sometime later, the very same ant was foraging for food near the edge of a wood. As he was busily carrying a crumb back to his nest, he noticed a man walking stealthily through the trees. The man wasn't just taking a stroll. He was a hunter, and he was moving with a quiet, focused intensity. The ant paused, his instincts telling him something wasn't right. The ant followed the man's gaze and saw what he was after. There, resting on a high branch, completely unaware of the danger below, was the very same dove who had saved his life. She was cooing softly, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. The man slowly and carefully bent down, picking up a sharp, heavy stone from the ground. He weighed it in his hand, his eyes locked on the unsuspecting dove. He was getting ready to throw it, to take her down. The ant's tiny body filled with a surge of panic and determination. He couldn't let this happen. The dove had saved him from the brook. Now it was his turn to save her. But what could a tiny ant do against a full-grown man? He had no strength, no weapon, but he had courage and he had a plan. He had to act, and he had to act fast. The man was already drawing his arm back, taking aim. The moment of truth was here. Without a second's hesitation, the ant scurried as fast as his little legs could carry him, right towards the man's bare heel. Just as the man was about to unleash the deadly stone, the ant bit down with all his might. It was a small bite, but it was sharp and sudden. A jolt of stinging pain shot up the man's leg. "Ouch!" he yelled, startled and confused. The sudden, unexpected pain made his arm jerk. His aim was ruined. The stone flew from his hand, but instead of hitting the dove, it sailed harmlessly through the leaves and clattered against a tree trunk far away. The loud noise and the man's shout startled the dove. Instantly alert to the danger, she flapped her wings and took to the sky, flying swiftly and safely away, disappearing into the deep, protective woods. She was safe, all thanks to the smallest of creatures. The hunter, rubbing his sore heel and grumbling, looked around but saw nothing. He had no idea that his prize had been snatched away by a tiny, grateful ant. And so, our story comes to a close. The ant watched the dove disappear into the distance, knowing he had repaid his debt. The dove, safe in a new tree, had no idea she had just been saved by the very ant she had helped weeks before. It's a beautiful cycle, isn't it? The dove's simple act of dropping a straw, which probably took her no effort at all, ended up saving her own life. And the ant's courageous bite, a tiny action in the grand scheme of things, had an enormous impact. This story teaches us something incredibly important. A kindness is never, ever wasted. You never know how or when a simple act of compassion will come back to you. It might not be immediate, and it might not be obvious, but the good you put out into the world has a way of creating more good. It reminds us that everyone, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has the power to make a huge difference in the lives of others. One good turn truly does deserve another. So next time you have the chance to help someone, whether it's a big gesture or something as small as dropping a blade of straw, I hope you'll remember the ant and the dove. Your kindness matters more than you know. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales and inspiration. Until next time, be kind to one another.